when you talk about sovereignty, of course, and you mentioned there the notion of water quality in the PRC, the People's Republic of China, and the likelihood of them becoming an importer of food. And Peter beside me said, well, we've got the capacity here to feed the world, which we have and have not. Because if you're talking about sovereignty, it doesn't matter who runs the country if you don't own it. And we've got people in Canada who can't differentiate between ownership and investment. We're all in favour of investment, but why are we selling all our dairy farms to China? Why do we sell all our avocado farms to China? Whole tracts of our beef farms to China? Our raw materials to China? I mean, the ludicrous situation we've now got with the dairy farmer in appalling levels of drought, who can't get an adequate price for the farm gate price for his milk. And we learn that they're sending 2 Qantas planes from Tasmania every week with Australian milk. The Chinese are not stupid. Paddock to plate means our paddock, but to their plate. And that milk is being denied to us. So this is a critical issue when you talk about sovereignty. The key is, well, who owns the joint? And the people who need to talk, and this debate needs to be had, is to the people running the country. Here we are selling out now. For example, on Sunday there's going to be a major release from this mongrel mob, this intergovernmental panel on climate change, which will be a major study, but this is not to be taken lightly. Basically, they are unapologetically saying that the international economic model must change. They aim to change that international economic model. This is one of the reasons why we've got an enormous amount to be thankful to Peter Dutton for, and indeed Tony Abbott, because they led the charge against Turnbull on the basis of surrendering energy policy to the United Nations. But at the same time, there was a global compact on migration, which we had signed. Julie Bishop had signed it. A global compact. In other words, take your cue from the United Nations. And people are not completely stupid, Greg. I'm very optimistic here because people understand the encroachment of this world government and the willingness to take over and monopolise the international administration of governments by having a whole range of objectives for such a world governing body, and this starts from the United Nations. And the 2 key components of this report, which have already been leaked on for Sunday, one of course is this notion that we have to. This is what they're going to tell the world, and we are signatories to this. Now basically, what we should be doing with the Paris Agreement is because this document involves those who are signatories, and it argues, demands the reduction of the dependence on coal-fired power from current 28% to between 1% and 7%. This is a national economic suicide note. That some international body should be telling us what we do. We are the most highly endowed resource nation on earth, but we're going to have to go to 50% renewable energy. Then, of course, they say we're going to have to change our diet. Because we need to eat less meat. Why do we need to eat less meat? Well, we need less cattle. Because less cattle will break less wind, and there'll be less carbon dioxide. Because carbon dioxide is an awful source of all plant life. This is rubbish stuff, and if you draw a simple conclusion, the simple conclusion is easy. Well, we'll have to eat less meat, but don't worry, we'll be eating it in the dark, because we won't have any electricity. It'll be 50% renewable energy, and the wind won't blow and the sun won't shine, and we know what will happen. And then of course, the argument being, and this is what they're about, that's why we've got this proliferation of vegetation acts around this country. There's a farmer, Peter, in Queensland, Dan McDonald, being fined $112,000 for trying to keep starving stock alive by feeding mulga to those starving stock. He is prevented by statute from doing this. The argument being, well, don't go out and tell honestly and openly your argument about carbon dioxide emissions, which these people are opposed to entirely, but simply say, well, trees and grass swallow and absorb carbon dioxide more readily than any other entity, so we'll have a Vegetation Act which will take trees and grasses away from productive Australia, and vegetation acts all over the country. So this is what this Sunday document of 400 pages is about. They are unapologetic. They say this will have a dramatic, it will be the instrument of a dramatic change in the international economic model. It doesn't apologise for this. Now, this is coming back to Greg, and we're finishing. We've all got to get off here and have a bite to eat. But, Greg, your argument about sovereignty is key. But if we're not prepared, if we're going to let people cherry pick the best resources in this country, they're going to own our coal. We've got 44% of the world's uranium. But it's illegal to have established nuclear power plants. They're establishing them all around the world. So we've got to wake up here. We've got these resources. They should be for us, not for others to use. China is smart. And now, of course, they're doing militarily in the South China Seas what, in fact, they're doing agriculturally here in Australia. So you're right. This is a big issue. We've got to decide whether we want to own the joint or not. We're an island continent. You go to New Zealand, they have no snakes. Now, that's a metaphor of the notion of sovereignty. They've said we're an island nation. We won't allow snakes in. So there's no snakes. Well, we're an island nation. Why do we allow some of these people to come into the country? We can determine snakes, human snakes. But what? Oh, there'll be someone out there ready to grab me for all this. So this is the point. So, Greg, well done. A compulsory read. I haven't got the book, seen the book, or read the book, but you've given a very powerful. Sovereignty in the 21st century. So it is a crisis, but it's a simple concept, really. Crisis, he says, for identity. We understand that. Don't surrender that. Surrender ownership, you surrender identity. Culture. See, I'm not a multicultural person. I think we're multiracial, but monocultural. Multiracial, let all these people come under the umbrella of the Australian culture. But the notion that all cultures are equal is an intellectual absurdity. So this is the crisis for identity, cultures, nation states. We've got to proclaim that. Turnbull wasn't interested in that stuff. He was going to take his instructions from the United Nations. Well, he's gone, thank God. And we've now got to be very strong in terms of what we do in civilisations as well. So, Greg, thank you so much. I should acknowledge, please, because our host is down here, and I haven't, you most probably did, David, but I haven't, the Reverend Fred Nile, and thanks to you, Fred, we are able to use this magnificent theatre today. And I know, David, we've acknowledged that. We are deeply refreshments. Oh, okay, brother.
And it's such theatre, and for a radio man, such a sense of theatre. Though you do television, don't you? You do it on Wednesday nights.
Highest rating show on TV on Tuesday nights.
And talking about different cultures and races and so on, I have been named by a Republican site. They thought they were having a go at me, but I used it. And that was that I am a perma-turned Indonesian-born blowing. And eventually they then developed a wonderful photograph of me. I'm in the Marshal of the Indonesian Army's uniform with medals, and I'm there. And they thought they were taking me, and I worried. I treasure that photograph.